The crew of a Terrence Howard project say that despite contracts with the Actors and Directors Guilds, the crew are being treated as less than employees. Now production is trying to replace the crew for standing up.
We're going to go ahead and jump right into Last Week in Southern Labor, a segment that we do every week where we take a look at what U.S. workers, what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to. In the last week, this segment covers May the 24th to the 30th. In new union campaigns, 44 security guards at Speed Art Museum in Louisville, Kentucky, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Security, Police, and Fire Professionals of America. This follows the non-guard workers at the museum filing a petition to unionize with the UAW last week. 180 workers at MV Transportation in San Antonio, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, Local 694. 7 workers at UNFI in Pompano Beach, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 769. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW Local 1, as the union representing 4 workers at Sign Crafters Incorporated in St. Louis, Missouri, and 22 workers at Starbucks in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, filed a petition to hold a union election with Starbucks Workers United. In union election results, 3 workers at IMI Kentucky in Edmonton, Kentucky, voted 2-1 against unionization with the Teamsters Local 89. 23 workers at AGL Services Company in Atlanta, Georgia, voted 19-2 in favor of unionization with IBEW Local 1997. 19 workers at Prestige Painting Worldwide in Lee's Summit, Missouri, voted 10-5 in favor of unionization with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, IUPAT District Council 3. 10 workers at Allegion Access Technologies in Louisville, Kentucky, voted 5-5 in a union election with the IBEW Local 369. Ties go to the employer. 13 workers at Davie Tree Expert Company in Huntingdon, Tennessee, voted 8-4 in favor of unionization with the IBEW Local 429. In strikes and bargaining updates, Teamsters, representing 160 drivers at Breakthrough Beverage in Florida, are bargaining their contract as we speak. Workers at 5 locations in the state have recently unionized. The members are expected to take a strike authorization vote next week. Jeff Patarello, director of the Teamsters Brewery, Bakery, and Soft Drink Conference, said they are trying to get these drivers in Florida the same benefits that their other members at Breakthrough have in other states. Despite the state of Alabama not approving a raise for all teachers in the state, some localities are finding room for raises in their budgets, including in Madison County, where I am at, where the local Board of Education last week approved a $1,000 a year raise for all employees. The U.S. Education Department, in the name of protecting women, is, I kid you not, attempting to end protections against pregnancy discrimination for their own workers. The Department of Defense is dropping the stupid "what did you do last week" requirement for civilian employees. 300 quality assurance workers at ZeniMax, unionized as ZeniMax Workers United CWA, have reached a tentative agreement with the company. The first of its kind agreement in the industry includes substantial across-the-board raises, new minimum salaries, protections against arbitrary dismissal, and more, according to the union. The 300 workers are nationwide, including in the South. 14 workers at Alabama Arise, who recently unionized as Alabama Arise Workers United, CWA, ratified their first union contract with 100% turnout and a 100% yes vote. In a joint release with management, they say they were able to lock in benefits they already have, secure raises, and 20 weeks of paid parental leave, and more. The VA Secretary, Doug Collins, wants to cut 15% of the VA staff nationwide. That is going to mean 83,000 workers out of a job. The Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, in Austin, Texas, is raising the alarm about bus driver safety after another incident and calling on the city to make changes to protect drivers. The president of the American Association of University Professors, an AFT affiliate, recently went on the Power at Work podcast to discuss how Trump's attacks on universities are affecting the people who make the institutions run. The crew of a Terrence Howard project in Kentucky is on strike as of last week. Terrence Howard, a guy who fancies himself an intellectual. The crew's union, the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, IATSE, say that despite state funding and contracts with the actors and directors guilds, the crew are being treated as less than employees. Now production is trying to replace the crew for standing up. Drivers for Kroger in Forest Park, Georgia, who last year unionized with Teamsters Local 528, have authorized a strike against the company because they won't offer a fair contract. In the press release, the Teamsters point out that in 2024, the company raked in more than $147 billion in revenue and reported over $2 billion in profits.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In political and legislative updates, the American Federation of Government Employees is celebrating beating back some of the worst provisions in the House bill for federal workers, like the proposed retirement cuts, while still raising the alarm about issues that remain and vowing to continue the fight in the Senate. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren has opened a probe into the increased backlog at the Social Security Administration that has resulted from the DOGE cuts. Friend of the show, Kim Kelly, reported that 32 MSHA district field offices in 20 states that had been marked for closure received notices that those orders had been canceled. The Mine Safety and Health Administration is important for protecting coal miners across the country. She's been reporting on coal miners for years now. Trump is greenlighting the U.S. Steel Nippon deal, with the United Steelworkers Union remaining extremely skeptical. Trump appointed Alabama utility regulator Twinkle Kavanaugh to a position in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, State Director of Alabama Rural Development. Lee Hedgepeth pointed out for Inside Climate News that during her tenure as president of the Public Service Commission in Alabama, she always approved rate hikes without formal hearings, as is common in other states. Alabamians who get their power from Alabama Power have some of the highest utility bills in the country. The Department of Labor is reportedly ending its Job Corps program, a free residential education and job training program for low-income people between 16 and 24 years old. Labor Secretary Chavez DeRemer says it's because it's not effective, but Republicans and Democratic senators have pushed back against the move, saying that Job Corps centers are important for workforce development in their states. The U.S. Department of Labor's Employee Benefits Security Administration has rescinded guidance discouraging cryptocurrencies in retirement plans. The Supreme Court has allowed Trump to end a temporary humanitarian parole program that allowed 500,000 immigrants to stay in the country legally while the case plays out. This will be devastating for the migrants, obviously, many of whom are union members. The AFL-CIO filed an amicus brief opposing the ending of the program, saying that this program could damage the economy, hurt businesses, and ultimately be detrimental for the co-workers who are left behind, all on top of being cruel and inhumane to the immigrants themselves. Liana Wang has a new piece in On Labor about how the IRS is cooperating with ICE and how that's bad for all workers, in particular pointing out how it might disincentivize immigrants from complying with the tax code, and thus we could lose a major source of revenue. Tommy Tuberville announced he is running for governor of Alabama. He is the clear favorite to win, with no other high-profile Republicans announcing a run. And finally, in internal union affairs, the international president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, John Costa, was in the South last week, visiting local 1235 members in Tennessee, working at several key transit hubs across the city of Nashville. Labor Notes has a great podcast out about how to make union meetings more interesting and engaging. They also have a new piece about how engaging critics can build a stronger local union. Finally, they've reposted an older piece about how unions have survived after moving off of paycheck dues deduction, very relevant for federal unions right now. Americans now favor labor unions over business by greater margins than ever before, and the International Association of Machinists, IAM, announced that they are reorganizing and centralizing their organizing department, a move that the union says will help streamline organizing efforts. If we missed something, let us know about your union updates at tvlr.fm/contact, and you can subscribe and get this segment as a newsletter in your email inbox at tvlr.fm.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.